Black sky over black earth, and the ground cracks open like an old scar. From that scar rises a god, older than thunder, older than the sea. He carries no lightning bolt, he carries silence. His name is Hades, lord of the place where sunlight has never been. He is the god you were warned about as a child, and the one you barely know. Today we open that kingdom and look inside. 5 rivers carve through the dark, each one a different kind of pain. 3 judges sit on a throne above a 3-headed hound. A single pomegranate seed decides who comes home for spring. And the most powerful relic Hades owns is one you cannot even see. By the end, you will understand why this god has haunted us for 3,000 years. This is the story of Hades and the dark secrets of the Greek underworld. Let's step across the river. In the beginning, the world belonged to the Titans, the old gods who ruled before the Olympians. Their leader was Cronus, father of Hades, who feared a prophecy that his children would overthrow him. So Cronus swallowed each of his children whole the moment they were born. Hades was the firstborn, devoured before he ever saw the sun. He would stay trapped inside his father until his youngest brother Zeus set him free. That war between the old gods and the new, the Titanomachy, lasted 10 years. Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon fought shoulder to shoulder against their father and the elder giants. When the Titans finally fell, the 3 brothers sat down to divide the cosmos between them. They drew lots, and Hades lost the sky and the sea. He drew the dark, the kingdom beneath the earth that the Greeks called the House of Hades. His real name in the old stories is Hades, meaning the unseen one, and that matters, because more secrets would follow this god than any other on Olympus. Hades settled into his realm and, by most accounts, he did not complain. Unlike his brothers, he did not chase adventure across the mortal world. He did not bed every goddess who caught his eye. Ancient writers describe him as stern, yes, but also just, patient, and bound to his duty. The Greeks did not think of Hades as a devil. They thought of him as the keeper of the door every human being would eventually walk through. And they feared him less than his brothers because he kept his promises. Now, what exactly does a god of the underworld do? He holds the gates, he weighs the dead, he keeps the shadows running on time. His realm, simply called Hades after the god, was a vast cavern stretching beneath the earth. It was never burning fire. The Greeks pictured it as a dim, misty place of endless twilight, a place where colors faded and breath felt heavy on the tongue. It had chambers, meadows, rivers, and the deep pocket called Tartarus at its lowest floor. And at its entrance stood the terrifying watchdog the world still remembers today. His name is Cerberus, a giant 3-headed hound with a mane of snakes and a venomous tail. Cerberus stands at the final gate and lets every soul in. His job, the only job, was to make sure no soul ever came back out. Some heroes tricked him. Heracles once wrestled him into submission without a weapon. Some poets imagined his breath smelled of all the funerals ever held. But in the oldest myths, Cerberus is not cruel. He is reliable. He is the lock on a door that must never swing the wrong way. To reach that hound, every soul first had to cross a river. 5 rivers in total circled the realm of Hades, each with its own dangerous personality. The first was the Styx, the river of binding oaths, where the gods swore their most sacred promises. The second was the Charon, the river of sorrow, sometimes called the river of woe. The third was the Phlegeton, a river of fire that licked at the banks like a hungry animal. The fourth was the Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, whose waters erased the memories of the dead. And the fifth was the Cocytus, the river of wailing, named for the cries of those who crossed it. Ferrying souls across the Acheron stood a hunched old boatman named Charon. Charon would only carry you if you had 2 things. First, a proper burial back in the world above. Second, a coin, an obol placed carefully in your mouth or on your eyelids by mourners. If you arrived without payment, Charon left you to wander the near bank for 100 years. The Greeks left those coins on purpose. They were terrified of being stranded on the wrong side of the grave. And here is the underworld's strangest secret. Hades owned an artifact more valuable than Zeus's thunderbolt or Poseidon's trident. It was the Cap of Invisibility, also called the Helm of Darkness. When Hades wore it, no god, no mortal, and no creature could see him coming. The cap let him walk among his brothers on Olympus without ever being noticed. But the older stories go further. This helm could also untether the wearer from reality itself, slipping them between worlds. Heroes borrowed it. Athena wore it in battle, and Hermes used it to slay the giant Argus. But it always returned to Hades. The darkness, the masters say, has its own secrets. Now, the most famous myth of Hades is also the most haunting one. It is the story of how he became king of more than just ghosts. Up on the surface, the harvest goddess Demeter had a daughter named Persephone. Persephone was no ordinary maiden. She was the breath of spring itself, playful and full of light. One day she wandered into a meadow and plucked a flower, and the earth cracked open beneath her feet. Hades rose up in his chariot drawn by midnight black horses and carried her into the dark. Persephone screamed. The world above went silent. Demeter's grief was so vast that crops stopped growing and the earth froze in permanent winter. The gods on Olympus began to panic. Zeus, the king of the gods, knew Hades had acted on his quiet blessing. That the mortals were starving, and he could not let the world die on his brother's altar. So he sent Hermes, the messenger god, down into the underworld to retrieve her. Hermes found Persephone in a garden of pomegranate trees, sitting beside her new husband. Hades had not forced her. He had, by some accounts, treated her kindly and offered her his throne. But Persephone had eaten 6 pomegranate seeds according to the most remembered telling of the myth. Because she had eaten the food of the dead, she could not leave the underworld forever. A deal was struck. Persephone would spend 6 months with Hades in the dark and 6 months with her mother in the light. And that is, the Greeks said, why the seasons change. Demeter's joy at her daughter's return melts the winter and coaxes the flowers up through the soil. Demeter's grief when her daughter descends again pulls the leaves down and chills the wind. Hades is not painted as the villain in this myth. He is painted as a lonely king. And he is one of the few gods in all of Greek myth who never once cheats on his wife. After death, every soul passed before 3 judges seated at the edge of the realm. Their names were Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus, all sons of Zeus who had earned eternal honor. Rhadamanthus judged the souls who came from the east. Aeacus judged the souls who came from the west. And Minos, the famous king of Crete, broke any ties between them. Depending on their verdict, each soul was sent to one of 3 great regions. The first was Elysium, a sun-soiled paradise of endless spring reserved for heroes and the truly virtuous. The second was the Asphodel Meadows, a misty, gentle place for the ordinary dead who had lived decent lives. The third was Tartarus, not so much a prison as an abyss beneath the underworld, where the wicked endured their punishments. Hades himself did not walk Tartarus. He let the Furies and the infernal judges do that grim work. And here's the second haunting detail. The worst punishment in Tartarus was not pain. It was forgetting who you were. Many heroes in Greek myth tried to storm the gates of Hades. Heracles came for Cerberus and dragged him back by the throat. Orpheus came for his dead wife Eurydice and almost won her back by the beauty of his music. Theseus came with his friend Pirithous, trying to kidnap Persephone herself. Pirithous never left. Theseus was rescued only after years of chains. And yet, Hades rarely acts in rage. He lets his subjects come, his hounds be wrestled, his queen be bargained away each spring. He is patient in a way the other gods are not. That patience may be the deepest secret of the underworld itself. The Greeks were saying in their oldest stories that death waits for everyone and never loses its temper. So who was Hades really? He was the oldest son of Cronus, the quietest of the brothers, the lord of what comes next. He was never the villain. He was the bouncer at the door. And the dark he ruled was not an evil thing in the Greek mind, only a necessary one. By now, you can see why the underworld has haunted storytellers for 3,000 years. Every river, every judge, every obedient hound is a piece of how the Greeks tried to picture the unknown. Hades still rules in our books, our films, our video games, and our dreams. Every hero who crosses a dark river is borrowing his boat. Every bargain with the devil is borrowing his contract. And every spring that returns to a frozen world is the memory of Persephone's long walk back out of the dark. If you love these legends, there is a whole playlist of rune legends waiting: Greek, Norse, and every myth in between. Next time, we step into the well of Mimir and ask the Norse gods what they sacrificed for wisdom. Until then, keep your coin on your tongue, your lamp at your side, and your eyes on the river. The dark has its own kindness, if you learn how to read it.